And we've got the real CJ Peterson, not just a picture. D. Scott here, and I am happy that CJ is joined us in this live Amazon broadcast, talking about one of her many books, but it's the most recent one that's come out, Appointed Time. And we're going to talk about that and these other projects that are coming on. And I tell you, I want people to click on the book in the carousel, because in there you can take a peek inside and start reading that first chapter, and it's going to draw you in. You're going to hit it. You're going to download it to your Kindle right away or get the hard copy, whatever works for you, but you're going to be drawn in immediately. We'll talk a little bit about that, but CJ, welcome, and tell people where you are and some of the things that are going on in your life, because apparently you've got like 28 to 40 hours a day in
Something like that.
calendar.
Well, thank you for having me on today, sir. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. And where are you dialing in from?
I live in Lufkin, Texas, which is pretty much the midpoint between Houston and Shreveport. Usually people know that's their general stop through. So they usually know that. We're about 2 hours north of Houston and about 2.5 hours south of Shreveport.
And well, I tell you, I've been through Texas. Well, I've been through West Texas, and there is a lot of Texas. So
yes, we actually, fun fact, but true. My husband and I drove from San Diego, California, and it took the exact same time to drive from San Diego to El Paso, Texas, as it took to drive from El Paso, Texas to East Texas.
Yeah, I believe that, because I have made that drive from Anaheim to El Paso, and then El Paso to San Angelo. And if people want to know where San Angelo is, get a compass so that you can draw a circle around Texas, and you put that point on San Angelo, and you will encompass it. It's one big state. So, well, welcome.
Thank you.
And so let's just jump first right into. I'm just going to put Appointed Time. I'm going to highlight that in the carousel, but people can scroll through and see the many other books that you've got out. But Appointed Time is the most recent one. But let's talk a little bit about some of these books that are coming out and what you have now coming out. I mean, this is like bing, bing, bing between now.
It is. I never, ever recommend an author to ever do this. This is just the way the editor and the publishing process all lined up. On August 30th, I launched Appointed Time, which is the first book in the Sands of Time trilogy. My husband and I read through each of the books before we send them to the editor. And as we're reading it, I normally do like a 6-month split, so I can usually breathe in between launches. And he says, you can't do that with this book. And I'm like, okay, well, it's coming out the end of August. I try not to publish anything after November because everybody does, and everything gets lost in the wash.
Okay.
And so I'm like, well, then I guess the soonest I can do it is October. So book 2, which is Race Against Time, is coming out on October 1st. And then book 3 is coming out January of 2022. So you get all 3 of them really close together. Now.
And I was going to say, this is the perfect time, because you have a series of gifts, maybe to yourself. This is the last day of summer. Yes. Fall's coming. You're going to want to be inside. You're going to want to have something new to read. And as I was reading through Appointed Time, as I was reading that, even from the very beginning, I'm saying, I know this is a trilogy. When did the other books come out? Because I don't want to be this like some Star Wars thing.
No, I'm not that cruel. I usually do like 6 months, but like I said, my husband and I read through, and he goes, "Nope, you can't do that with this one. It has to be out sooner." And I'm like, "Okay,
wise man, wise man."
Okay, so those are coming out pretty quick. And then also on October 1st, I'm launching a Christmas novella it's called Christmas Angels, with a bonus of Christmas Wish, is another short story I'm kind of tacking on the end as a special added plus. But Christmas Angels is kind of like the bow that wraps up the Team Angel series. The Team Angel series consists of the standalone book, Strength from Within, the Grace Restored series, which is a 5-book series, the Holy Flame trilogy, which is the 3-book series, and the Divine Legacy series. Now, the reason I call them Team Angel is because Angel stands for Available to Nurture God's Eternal Love. And that's the underlying group that's through all the series, is because within that group, the characters actually cross over storylines. So it gets really interesting. The Divine Legacy series is actually a 20-year jump from the other ones, and it's the kids taking over the Divine Legacy. In these books, the spiritual realm crosses into the physical. So where there's dark, there's light, there's angels, there's demons. Michael, the archangel, is head of the angels. They're his angels on this planet. So you're dealing with the creatures of the dark and, the angels, but you're dealing with them on this plane. So it gets really interesting. Especially when the new group takes over, because they're like college age. So you can imagine college age kids taking over something this big and this prolific, that's going to affect the balance of the world. It gets interesting, including what I call an international incident angel style that happens in book 2, Army Rising.
Okay.
So
I tell you, it's you should easily fill your Kindle. We are interviewing CJ Peterson here on Amazon Live, and I'm really grateful that you're able to join me today and just talk about these books. And again, this is a last day of summer. We're coming into fall, and it's the start of gift giving season.
Yes, exactly.
And I can't think of some better gifts, because books, when you read them, right, it's like meeting someone new. And then when you reread them, I think it was said that it's like visiting an old friend.
You get something new every time that you read the book. Something else stands out to you.
And I like I like this, that you've interconnected these stories, and then you get to jump ahead.
Yep. So and then now the Sands of Time trilogy, that's a totally different set of characters. That's a completely new one. That one has to do with Professor Noah Roth, is a scientist. And so science is at his core. He's not a nice guy. He's been experimenting.
I want to tell people again, click on the book. Do it right now. Click on it. Open it in a new tab, and then take a look inside and start reading in there, because it's heart pounding from the very beginning. You think you're going to sit back in your easy chair. I guarantee you that you're going to be on the edge of your chair, going from page to page, and it starts off kind of as a traditional. I mean, there's something very traditional about what's going on, but very quickly you learn there is something not right about this professor, right?
Yes, no.
And he's very adamant about how he introduces himself.
Yes, he is. And he's not a good guy. He's been doing genetic experimentation for about 20 to 30 years. And so he's trying to initiate this gene in humans. And he's finally got it in the 4 that are on the front of Appointed Time. That's where the story starts. And basically it's a nature versus nurture, because there are 2 nurses that know what's going on. And so they can each only take 1. So 2 are left behind and 2 go with them. And the 2 that go with them, they take them from Maine, which is where it starts, down to a little East Texas town called Willow Bend, which is fictional, so don't bother trying to look. It's not there.
You won't find it on Google Maps.
You won't find it on Google Maps.
But you will find it in Appointed Time.
Yes.
And they chose this little town in Texas for a reason, right?
Because there is nothing there.
They wanted to.
They needed to hide. Well, they needed to hide because this guy's reach is massive, and the more you know about him, the more you're going to hate him.
And I'll just tell you that there are some twists in there as you start to read. You start to kind of get an idea of how big his reach is, even early on in their interactions with people in the town.
Yep, and it actually goes nuclear in book 2. So,
okay, yeah. And then, so you're talking about these 4 children that are genetically engineered by Professor Roth, by Noah Roth.
He does it under the guise of a fertility clinic. So in doing so, he seeds all of the experiments. So
Hmm.
when these 4 are born with the gene,
Hmm.
Holly, which is the redhead on the front, her mom dies during childbirth. Blake's mom dies the day after of supposedly natural causes.
Hmm.
And then later we find out that Deanna and Adams also died, but we also found out there's more children. So he didn't stop at the 4.
Okay. Well, so the two go off to Texas. They
Mhm.
hide with the
They're
people who are
raised
caring
in, yeah,
for them. They're raised,
in a very
and
caring, loving environment where one of the nurses is Christian and one is not, and that's where Christianity comes into play.
yeah, there's
Um,
a beautiful point there in the middle where I'll just say the whole gospel story is laid out.
mhm. That's kind of my deal with God. I have a deal with
Mm,
him that in each one of my novels, the gospel is in there somewhere.
yeah.
And then he
Well,
gets
it's
into the book,
wonderful.
into the hands of those who need it.
Hmm.
But people, when I told my husband my original idea, he's of doing a Christian fiction sci-fi, because there's not a lot of them out there. He's
Right.
like, "Is that even possible?" And I said, "Yes, it is." I said,
Absolutely.
"I am a geek, sci-fi geek at my core, and I am a Christian, and I will do it."
Yeah.
And basically, what I tell people is, life is life.
Hmm.
Being a Christian will change how you view and how you do life. That's the
Mm.
difference. It's still there. Everything is
Hmm.
still going to happen. They're still doing genetic experimentation right now.
Sure.
So this just puts a different spin to it.
And as they start to settle into their life and try to find some sort of a routine, I think a lot of people will be able to identify just kind of with the struggles of raising kids in general,
Hmm.
right? There's just some normal things that happen, and
Yes.
they're struggling to try to pay the bills, to raise the kids, to give them some sort of moral compass,
Hmm.
and that's part of where the church comes in. But there's some again, I'm not going to give anything away. There's some twists. There's some things that just complicate
Hmm.
this. But I will just say that in my experience, everybody has something.
Hmm.
So when you're raising kids, they may not have been genetically engineered by this evil professor,
Hmm.
but everyone's going to be able to just to relate to the struggles of raising kids.
Hmm. Yeah. And raising kids is tough enough. I was a youth leader for 18 years.
Hmm.
But raising kids is tough enough. But when you add the element of these kids as gifts, which can range
Hmm.
anywhere from telekinesis to telepathy to
Hmm.
empath to, one whose brain works so fast it's almost akin to a precog. When you're raising kids that are like that puts it on
Yeah,
a whole nother level.
sure, yeah, and then the story travels pretty quickly there,
Hmm.
and the children get older, and there's a point where they meet the other kids,
Hmm. They start to go to
and
church and they
and
meet a
and
group of
again,
youth group kids.
it starts to, yeah, so you've got this whole teenage angst, right, that
Hmm.
we all dealt with. This is we
Yes.
grew up, because as I tell my son, I'm still a 16-year-old boy. I've just added more layers. um and so I remember, so I understand these feelings, because they're about that age, and they meet these other children,
Hmm.
and there's that kind of the typical teenage stuff, but then you also get to see a little bit more of the gigantic reach that this professor has.
Hmm. Yep. It gets pretty, like I said, it goes nuclear in book 2. Um, I can't give away too much.
Well,
I am
I
known
don't
as
want
a
to, I don't,
yeah, I am
I,
known as a literary assassin. I will caution you on that. So as my husband says, it's kind of like NCIS, no character is safe. Just know
Mhm.
that from the get-go.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah.
As I think of some of the Clancy stories,
Hmm.
where he starts describing these characters in such detail, and
Hmm.
you get attached to them in
Oops, they're
like three or
gone.
four pages, and then you turn the page, and this is like, what? I thought you were going to build a whole nother series off of this character.
Well, I've had
So,
people tell me that they'll laugh and they'll cry through my book. And I've had some that I guess evoke some pretty strong emotions. I've had teens tell me they've thrown them across the room. I've
mm,
had mothers tell me they're reading them till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning and they have to be at work the next morning. Um, I love
I agree.
evoking
I
that
can
much
see that.
passion. If I can hit you at your core that hard, then that means I've done my job.
Yeah.
Because in
Yeah.
my books, my tagline is while the stories are fiction, the journey is real. So for me, it's all about the
Yes.
journey. And if I can take you on a journey
hmm
of the heart that takes you up and down in that wide range of an emotion, then I've done my job.
it that fits so well. Because again, I was saying, as I was thinking, we can relate. Those of us
Mhm.
who have raised kids or have been kids
Mhm.
can relate to this. So that's a journey. But just like with stage makeup, right? It's
Mhm.
always exaggerated so
Mhm.
that when the lights come on, and there's probably a little, because you're using this science fiction type genre to tell a story. It exaggerates things a little bit, but only a little bit.
Mhm. Yep. I try to keep it a little close to real life as I can. Mhm.
Yeah, and
It
that's
gets
the frightening
interesting.
part. That's
Yeah.
the frightening part because you
Yes.
go, "Wait a minute. This isn't too far from."
This could actually happen. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. And
There's a
so like when
Professor
some of
Ross
this
out there somewhere.
for real. And then when you start to read some of this stuff and you kind of start looking around, you're like,
Mhm.
um, we're a little closer to that than I like. And stuff that's coming out in science now, I'm reading that like regarding
Mhm.
AI, regarding genetic manipulation and cloning, and I'm just like, I've
Mhm.
read that book. I've saw that movie. Why are you guys not reading this stuff and realizing how dangerous this stuff is to mess with?
That's right. That's right. So again, when I go to your author page, and again, thank you to everyone that's tuned in, watching this live or watching it on the replay. We're interviewing CJ Peterson. We're talking about her new book, Appointed Time,
Mhm.
but also the series. So this is the first of a series that's
Mhm.
coming out in October and January, right?
January. Mhm.
So the next ones, but she has a number of books. She's written quite a few books. They're there in the carousel, so you can click, and I go ahead and add those to cart, and just save yourself time. Add to cart. You'll be happy for it.
Well, the
But when you
beauty
look
is,
through,
let's say the beauty is I make them affordable. The ebooks are only $1.99. So,
they're, yes, very, and make great gifts. They make
mhm.
great gifts. So add those on, and then but when I look through that author page and I see all these books, uh, although I know you're working 24/7 right now, based on what you've told me, um, you didn't just start recently. You've been writing for a while.
Mhm. I've been writing since 2012 was the first time I published my first book, which is Strength from Within. Um, but once I started publishing the trilogy, I pulled that one kind of aside and I republished that one in 2022.
Okay.
So, like I said, the characters actually cross over storylines, and I was gonna pull
Mhm.
that out completely, but I thought, no, Stacy's story still needs to be told.
Yeah.
So, all of the stories have a special meaning. They all take you on a journey of the heart. But
Mhm.
especially when regarding the Team Angel series, the characters, because they cross over storylines, you get a deeper part of the character story in a different series. So
Mhm.
even for Strength from Within, Nick Locke is the FBI agent that is part of Grace Restored series. And then Grace Restored series follows Katie McKenna, and Stacy Spencer, which is from Strength from Within, comes in at the end of her first book, Seasons of Change. And so
Mm.
the characters, you get to know them a lot deeper by continuing to follow life with them.
Yeah. And so, do you find it harder or easier to write when you continue the characters?
Sometimes that depends. It's like
Mhm.
you don't want to overplay your hand, so you need to be very careful in that.
Mhm.
How many times have you watched a movie and it's like, okay, this is getting redundant? And
Right.
so I don't want to get
Mhm.
redundant, but I want you to be able to share in the journey as much as possible, which is
Mhm.
why I ended the Angel series, the Team Angel Group series is that a word? Series
Yeah,
is
you bet.
um
Surai? I don't know.
something like that. I don't I ended them, but there was just one more story that needed to be told, which is why I
Mhm.
did the Christmas novella. So
Okay.
that's going to
Yeah.
completely wrap everything up, and that one's coming out October 1st.
Mhm.
And so that's the last of the Team Angel series.
Because I think from a reader standpoint, you get involved with a character and to either find what happens next to them, or to go into the backstory and to learn why they got to where they are. I just, I don't know, maybe I'm the geek, right? I mean, I'm the one who has read the Silmarillion from Tolkien multiple times, right?
But you want to know more about him, especially if you like that character. It's like, okay, give me more, give me more.
Yeah, yeah, because you've created a world, right? And you've populated it with interesting characters, and you want to go back and visit, right? We want to know more,
right? And eventually, I'm going to go back into the Sands of Time trilogy characters, and I'm going to do a Sands of Time series, which kind of breaks them down 2 by 2. So that's in the near future.
Yeah, I like that. I think.
Well, there's a lot of there's a lot of characters, especially when you start going into book 2. You realize just how many characters there actually are, and just how evil Professor Roth actually is.
Well, even just you look at the cover of the book, and you see the 4 characters, right? And then you go in and I like this technique that you've done where you actually have photographs of your characters.
Yeah.
And I see the first ones and I see the names. I'm trying to match it up, and then I turn the page. And I say, "Oh, there's more," and I go and there's more and there's more. How did you come up with this idea to use actors, right?
Well, actually, they're from Dreams Time. They're models from Dreams Time. So I actually have paid for the right to use them for those who are watching. Yes, you do that, and yes, I did.
Yeah.
But I kind of have an idea of what I wanted them to look in my mind, and I knew the 4 as soon as I found them. But a lot of times that's kind of part of my process. They're usually pantsers or planners when it comes to writing. Sometimes there's a freak hybrid in the middle. But planners are those that have like the outline, the butcher paper, post-it notes, that sort of thing, character arcs, all of that. I don't do that. I'm a pantser. I literally sit down, pray, and type. The only thing I keep is a running list of characters. And so part of that process for me, though, is finding those characters. Because if you look at the front cover of all my books, there are some of the characters literally on the covers. And I did that because, when you've got this person in your head, you're like, okay, I want to share them with you so you get an idea of what they look like and, why, I described them that way. And so it just gives it a little bit more in depth. And so normally like I said, there are some characters on the front of the Team Angel series books, but I don't normally do like the full character list. But I learned from the Team Angel book that if there's a lot of characters, people lose track. So the character chart in the front allows you to just keep track of everybody. Okay, who was that again? Okay, got it. Who was that again? Got it.
Yeah, no, I thought that was great. It's one of those things where you'll want to kind of flip back as you're reading and developing and running into new characters. You can take a quick peek and see, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. Like Holly is very kind of more, she's got a temper. She's a redhead. She's feisty. Blake is very laid back. Deanna is very angry. And there's reasons why she's very angry. But you can tell that just by the look on their face. And Adam is kind of like the balancer.
Okay.
And so you can kind of see that in them on the covers and see what, by looking at them. And when you get introduced to the other characters as well, you'll be able to follow along a lot more. And there's also another reason why I definitely put the main teens lists up there for their faces, because that comes into play a lot later.
Okay. This is awesome. So we were talking with CJ Peterson, and her book that has come out, Appointed Time, it's the first in a trilogy. Click on it, add it into your cart, but you can go ahead and take a peek inside. You can start reading that. You're going to be drawn in. You'll want to keep reading, but take heart. The second in the trilogy is coming out in October. So you don't have long to wait. October 1st. So you don't have long to wait for that. And then following right after New Year's, you'll be able to get the third in the series. So you don't have to wait long. You don't have to wait years
Well, that
between
way you can
stories
enjoy
here.
your holiday, but enjoy your story at the same time and not have to, go, "Oh, I need to read this 3rd book to get," but you can just enjoy your family time. Family comes first.
Enjoy it.
So,
Absolutely. We've
that's
got a
that's
lot
kinda
of
why I did
holidays.
that.
You did plot it out. You did
I
plot it
did.
out. You're an author.
I am.
You've laid this out for us in a very methodical and carefully thought out way.
Yes. Now there are 2 other ones that are coming out before Christmas time. I have a Chief and Sarge book, which is my children's book series,
Hmm.
and I have a new illustrator. My first book actually won for best children's travel book. It
Oh,
was called
wonderful.
Cruising for this last year. But
Hmm.
this year I changed over illustrators. My illustrator is Davy Jones. He's the comic artist for Charmy's Army, and we connected, and we've just been in sync all the way through this book. And
Yeah.
the illustrations allowed me, because he does them pencil first and then ink and then colors, does it old school. It allowed me to
Okay.
go more in depth with the Serenity Acres crew that
Yeah.
is part of Chief and Sarge. And these little stuffed animals, I actually carry them around in our backpacks when we go on adventures. There's pictures on my websites of people getting their pictures taken with them and everything.
Well, that's wonderful. I have talked to a lot of authors that have tried to do children's books, and that is syncing up with the illustrator. If they don't do it themselves,
Hmm.
is a real challenge. It can take years to
Yeah.
find the right illustrator who understands what you're trying to communicate, who those children are, because they may be a great artist, but they really don't know how to draw for the audience.
Oh, he does. He did, character questions and everything at first. And we
Hmm.
were able to kind of establish, who each of the characters are. One's me, one's my husband, Trevor. I call him Super Hubby. Then there's Delilah, which is his service dog, which is basically like Scrappy Doo on crack. There's
Okay,
Samson, which is like
that's a
Jeff.
scary thought
Yeah,
right there. Okay,
Samson, which is like Jeff Dunham's Walter in cat form. That's
okay,
Samson. Um, Anybody who knows that will be able to laugh with that one.
indeed.
Um, Chief is the laid back big brother. He's a koala. And then Sarge is the naughty little monkey brother. So
Okay,
everybody has their own
poor
little
monkey's always
element.
getting typecast.
Oh no, he is though. He enjoys every bit of it and he owns it. That's usually what gets him in trouble. So
As he should.
it
Yeah.
gets fun, but Davy Jones has just done a
Mhm.
spectacular job with these illustrations, and I just cannot wait to share it with the world. I'm so
And that's
excited.
coming out to when?
Before Christmas. He's almost
So
done with the
that's
pencils. I would say end of October, maybe November, but it's
mhm.
definitely before
Yeah.
Christmas.
So to everyone watching in replay, in the carousel, we've highlighted a point in time, but there are many of the other books that
Yes.
CJ Peterson, who is here with us live on Amazon today, click on that, and then you can click on her picture and go to the author page. And my recommendation is that you follow her. Click the follow button so that when she has new books come out, you'll be notified. You'll have that opportunity to get those books right away.
And there's a
So
lot coming
make
out.
sure you click and follow. There's a lot coming out, so you'll have an opportunity. These are great gifts,
Mhm.
and again, the story here in this first of this um, trilogy is so engaging from the very beginning. And as
Thank
you
you.
go through, we're experiencing life with these kids and the family that they have, the community that they're in. We start discovering a lot more about the sinister plans and reach of this professor.
He's not a good guy.
He is not, no.
No.
It doesn't take many pages for you to
No.
kind of see this shadow coming,
Yes.
and the
Yes.
arrogance that he exhibits, and the disdain that he has for those who he deems less than himself.
Hmm. Well, even the kids he calls
Mm.
subjects, and the women he calls carriers. So he makes it like sterile
Yeah.
so that the people who work in the facilities don't get attached to them.
Hmm. This is it's really interesting because again, this science fiction type genre has given us a lot of opportunity over the years to examine social issues in a way that's a kind of a step removed.
Mhm.
And so I really see that here in your story as well.
Mhm. It's a tricky balance, and it's
Hmm.
like you want to keep it as close to real life as you can so people can relate to it, but show, this is what happens when it goes bad, or this is what happens
Hmm.
when it goes good. One of the main points in the entire trilogy is the gift is a tool. Each of these kids have gifts. The gift is a tool. The question
Hmm.
is, what's the heart behind it? The gift is not good, or nor is it bad. It's the person who has the gift and how they choose to use it that makes the difference.
Hmm. And that's what I think is an important part of this story specifically,
Mhm.
that and this type of story in general, that gives us an opportunity to examine our own lives
Mhm.
and think about, because everyone's been given gifts, and it was Red Skelton, the comedian. So some
Mhm.
people may remember Red Skelton from many years ago. Started, I think, in vaudeville, worked his way through television and radio, and radio and television, and but he said that if you have any talent,
Mhm.
that's your gift from God.
Mhm.
If you use that talent, that's your
That's
gift
gift
to
to
God.
God. Yep. I say
Yeah.
that all the time.
And I think it's important for us to remember that we've all been given some sort of a talent,
Mhm.
and using it, and using it appropriately, right, is really your
Mhm.
gift.
Well, and that is actually addressed in, I think, Race Against Time,
Okay.
because the gifted kids talk to the youth group kids, and they're like,
Hmm.
"You guys have gifts too. They're just not something as prolific as
Hmm.
telekinesis or telepathy or, empathy or anything. Being empathic. I can say
Yeah.
that correctly. Um, so,
I
you
will
know,
let you do that.
and bring, precog. Just because they're not as big as that doesn't mean you don't
Hmm.
have, any less of a gift. Like one of the girls from the youth group is a genius. I mean,
Mm.
she's like brilliant genius. Her street smarts isn't always there, but her book smarts is way
Yeah.
up there. She's like hacker genius type thing. And
Wow.
another one, he's great with horses, So he says,
Hmm.
"Great. So my gift is to be the horse whisperer," you know. So they have fun with it a little bit, but each one has another one of his gifts is he's great at Texas Hold'em. So he can
Hmm.
read people almost kind of like you can tell if you're lying or if you're bluffing. But each person has different gifts, whether they
Hmm.
choose to label it or not.
Right.
It's how you use that gift.
Hmm. And also, as we're coming into these teen years,
Hmm.
but even beyond, I think people are embarrassed. We're embarrassed that we
Hmm.
have a skill that differentiates us, because, of course, as teens, we have to blend in.
Right, but no, that's the
I
youth group
got.
leader for
All right, we
18
flip the
years.
switch.
This is one of
CJ
my
is going. CJ
this
is
is
going.
this is
Go for it.
one of my switches. We'll put it that way.
Yes.
It's being a youth group leader for 18 years. I saw it all the time. They wanted to stay in mainstream. Like, no,
Hmm.
one of my primary verses is Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper, not to harm you, to give you a hope and a future. He has a plan and a
Hmm.
purpose for you that might not necessarily match somebody else's. He's
Right.
created you as a unique individual, just like no two snowflakes are alike, no two people are
Hmm.
alike, even twins have different
Hmm.
differentiate things that differentiate themselves from the other.
Yeah.
And it's like you are an individual. Own that. Be an original. You know, go outside your box. And I'm not telling you something I didn't do because I was army brat. I moved around all over. I really didn't care what anybody thinks, and
Mm.
I still don't. People
You
either love my
know,
books or they hate them. That's where I
so
land.
that brings me to this question about
Mhm.
your creativity, because obviously you make a living off of being creative.
Mhm.
And um, tell me about your early journey, because as you talk about moving around
Mhm.
and kind of not really caring.
Mhm.
Tell me about that in your creativity. And I have a reason for this question as well.
Uh-oh. Usually I'm on that end of the thing. So,
So.
um,
Yes.
being able to move around a lot allowed me to see people at their core. I don't see colors
Mm.
of skin. I don't see, the behavior patterns is what I look for. I look for your
Yeah.
heart. I learned early in my teen years that there can be this drop dead, hunky, top 10 guy with the
Hmm.
personality of a doorknob. To me, that made him ugly to me.
I got you. Hmm.
Or he was arrogant. Oh, give me an arrogant person. I will take them down. It's like, I
Hmm.
don't like that. And so there are some others who had kind of average to kind of maybe a little bit homely looking looks, but
Hmm.
their personality was amazing. They had me
Sure.
laughing. They cared. They showed heart. To me,
Hmm.
that person is more of a 10 than the other guy. So I don't go by world standards. I go by heart standards. And that's
Right.
kind of where that stories of fiction, the journey is real. It allows me to touch people at the heart. And I'm kind of known for that inspirational
Yeah.
heart journey. That's more what I'm known for, is taking people on that heart journey. And
I love it. I
that's
love it.
how I look at the world.
It's one of the things is that our physical characteristics, they are what they are.
Mhm,
You're tall or not tall.
mhm.
You're
Well, even
blonde or not
disabilities,
blonde,
even
right?
disabilities. In the Team Angel
And
series, Casey is a cat. Casey, not Casey. Corey is blind. She's a blind
mm,
hacker.
mhm,
So, she doesn't let her disability stop her. In this
right.
series, Eddie is in a wheelchair, but
Mhm.
he's got gifts. I'm not going to go any further than that, but he's got
Yeah.
gifts. And
Yes.
so he doesn't let that limit him. So
Mhm.
my characters may have disabilities, but they're not limited by them.
Right. And you're one of the things that's out there is one study is that confident people are
Mhm,
more attractive.
mhm,
So rather than getting surgery or Botox,
mhm.
you can work on your
Have
confidence.
Yeah, have
Work on your
have a
confidence.
proper self-image. Confidence versus
Mm.
arrogance, though, there's that fine line. Be careful of that
Yeah,
line.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, yeah, yeah. For me, I always say that both are competent, right?
Mhm,
Competent, arrogant people and
mhm.
confident people, but arrogant people take and
Mhm.
confident people give.
Yep. One lifts up, one takes down,
Hmm. Yeah, yeah.
and that makes all the
So
difference. Mhm.
the creativity. w- Um, I mean, you started 2012
Mhm.
writing, publishing the
Publishing.
books,
Publishing.
publishing, publishing, but
Mhm.
your journey obviously started well before that.
Yes.
Your journey of creativity and
Yes.
expressing yourself.
Yes. Actually, I have about 40, 45 books that are kind of in the cache that eventually I rewrite and re-put out.
Hmm. Hmm.
And a long
And when
time
did you
ago,
start? When did you start
writing,
those? Yeah.
uh, 20s,
Hmm. Okay.
20s. But I was always told it was a hobby. It's never going to amount to anything.
Mm,
I can't believe you're actually doing that. You're wasting
there
your
are
time.
many naysayers, right?
Exactly. And
Yeah.
okay, I'm Irish Texan. Tell me something I can't do and see what happens. And so
They are a
thankfully,
stiff-necked people.
yes, we are. Takes us a little bit to learn our lessons, but when we do, we've got them. But I
Yeah.
have the benefit also of having an extremely supportive husband. I call him
Mhm.
Super Hubby for a reason. He's
That's
retired
a
Navy
great that's
senior
great.
chief. He's got the brains and the heart to match, but he's
Mhm.
been through a lot. He has a cage in his
Mm.
back, which is L1 to S1, is fully caged. A
Mm.
bar or a titanium rod in his arm, titanium rod in his leg. His C spine is fused. He's lucky to be here.
So, he
Um,
is quite the science experiment for somebody.
yes, he is. He's like a bionic man. But he's he's my biggest cheerleader and supporter.
Mhm.
Because it's like, okay, any type of artist will understand this aspect. When you
Yeah.
put something out there that has your heart, whether it's writing, drawing, um, comics, or
Mhm.
painting, or whatever it is, it's kind of like you're putting your heart out there saying, please, rule, don't stomp on it, don't squish it. It's right here. Just take a look at it. You might actually like it. And you're
Right?
terrified. Well, with already having that other stuff, I came from a domestic survivor background,
Mm.
which did not include Super Hubby. Um, but because of that, my self esteem again, I'm a little bit more stick-necked than others, so it took me a
Mhm.
little bit before it finally knocked me on my tail end, and I had to rebuild myself back up. And
Mhm.
so through that, it's like I had to combat all that stuff that I was told.
Right.
I've been through the gamut when it comes to domestic violence.
Mhm.
Every aspect out there it's possible,
Oh.
I've been through it. The worst one I can honestly tell you to get through and process is the mental, because the
Mhm.
physical bruises will heal.
Mhm.
Your body can heal from a lot of stuff, but the mental just hangs back there, and that is the worst to get through.
Right.
So pushing
Yeah.
through that, I read Strength from Within to my husband, and he says, "You need to publish this. The messages in
Yes.
these books have got to get out. You've got to get this published."
I love
And
that.
of course,
I
I'm
love
like
that.
going, "This is my heart, though. Are you sure you want to do this?" And he's, "Yes, you've got to get it out." And so our deal was we were going to publish the books. I started as an indie publisher. We're going to
Mhm.
publish the books. And as long as the messages in the books help at least one person,
Mhm.
then publishing that book was worth it. And I've had
Right.
people who have sent me messages that says, it's a awakening to spiritual warfare. It's a
Mhm.
reality check. I've had
Right.
others. I've had this one lady. I tell this story, and people laugh. She was in her 80s, 75 or 80. She messaged me on Facebook before the Divine Legacy series came out. And
Mhm.
the only two questions not answered in the Grace Restored series and the Holy Frame trilogy is what's in the box. And
Mhm.
that's answered in the Divine Legacy series. And she says,
Right.
I have to know what's in the box. I'm retired. I'm going to die before this next book comes out. You have to tell me. And I'm like, I'm sorry, honey. It's coming out soon. You don't understand. I'm going to die. You have to tell me what's in this box. It's like, if I can evoke that, like I said, and
Yes.
teens throwing the books across the room, then I have reached your core,
Well, this
which
is
means
a I love that
the message has
perspective that
gotten
you
through.
said, if you can help one person.
Mhm.
Because, I remember, listening to a teacher, and he was saying that, Jesus didn't die for all of us.
Mhm.
He died for each of us.
Mhm.
And so if it was only one person,
He would
he
have
would have
done it.
gone through everything.
Yep.
And so for you to decide that you would go through, and as you talk about just what it takes to write and edit and publish and promote a book and that story,
Mhm.
that if you can help one person, you'll go through that. That's just a beautiful. This is a beautiful
Well, thank you.
story and a beautiful example,
Mhm.
tangible example.
Exactly. And to continue with that thought, my
Yeah.
sister and I started Texas Sisters Press. We're the Sisters of Texas Sisters Press. We started it in December of 2019, and we
Okay.
opened it to other authors in
Hmm.
August of 2019. We have several now with
Yeah.
us that have signed. And we started that for a couple of reasons. Number one, a lot of indie books look like indie books, and it shines very badly on
Mm.
authors. And so our books, we wanted to be able to put it right next to the big boys and
Hmm.
not be able to really tell the difference.
Right. Yeah.
Another reason is because there's a lot of authors out there who have great stories, like
Hmm.
mine, my sister Lydia's. Um, and it's like they can't get an agent or they can't get a publishing company to to even pick it up and look at it. And
Right.
so it's like we
Yeah.
wanted to help authors. So we're behind our authors. We take them through a marketing and branding course. We make sure that they're not flying solo. We look
Hmm.
after them as part of the Texas Sisters Press family. And it's kind of
Right.
the same idea of we wanted
Hmm.
to be able to help people to get their story out.
I love that. And th- I just want to go back to the creativity a little bit, because when you're
Mhm.
talking about you're in your 20s and you start being serious about writing these books, and you say you've got 40 some books, just
Oh, I'm in my 40s now. I'm almost 50.
yeah, no,
So
I'm
it took
of
me
the
a while.
books. Oh, the
Yes.
books to go out, right? I mean,
Yes.
you've
I've got
got
a lot.
an arsenal behind you, but
I do.
there were a number of people who were discouraging you
Yes.
from early on. And whether it's writing or art or any pursuit that is kind of outside of the family business or
Mhm.
a mindset, people will they can face a lot of opposition.
Mhm. They do. And that's where you
Yeah.
kinda gotta take the reins yourself and say, "You know
Hmm.
what? I was given this story. I was given this picture. I was given this talent," whether it's musical,
Hmm.
whether it's arts, whether it's, drama, whatever the
Hmm.
talent is, you're given to it for a reason.
Yeah. We talk about children. And they said every child is an artist, dancer, singer,
Mhm.
poet, right? And there comes a time where that leaves them. And
Mhm.
it comes about the time, probably 6, 7 years of age. And that's where you kind of start having self-awareness,
Mhm.
and you actually start caring what other people think. And that's what tends to kill that
Mhm.
creativity.
And it gets
And
worse
so,
when you get into junior high and high school. Mhm.
yes, and this is why I love what you're talking about, that you were able to overcome that fairly early on.
Again, it's kind of a self-preservation thing because I moved around
Mhm.
so much. It's like I didn't really get close to anybody, so I really didn't care.
Mm. Yeah.
But it also allowed me the opportunity to I'm a people watcher. It
Mhm.
allowed me to see people, and I had friends. I had very, very few close friends, but I had friends from every clique because I was able to blend in. I was able
Mhm.
to connect with them on a level other than you're in this clique, you're in this clique, you're in this clique. I can't talk to you because you associate with this person, and I'm just like, I don't care who you associate with. I like you
Mhm.
for you. And it's
Right.
like you have to look beyond that, and you have to look,
Right.
especially teens, beyond high school because
Mhm.
9 out of 10 friends will not make it through your college years into your adult years. You're going to meet your friends,
Mhm.
lifelong friends in college and your adult years.
Mhm.
But teens put so much they have so much pressure on them from like social media to peer pressure. Social media takes
Mhm.
peer pressure to a whole new level.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like they've got so much pressure on them that they feel that they have to be this type of person. And it's like, no, just be yourself. Just be
That's
yourself.
right. Mhm. Yeah. So that was a very mature, mindset that you had
Mhm.
early on, and to be able to connect with different groups of people. And I think we all need to do that and be mindful of it. I
Mhm.
think it's something that we can do intentionally as
Oh, yeah.
adults.
And usually the outcasts are the best friends out there
Mhm.
because they don't have very many. But the other thing is usually they're the funniest too. They they tend to look at life in a unique way, and it's
Yeah.
like because of that, they're outcasts because 'cause they're not in the
Mhm.
normal zone. Well, to me, normal is boring, so, be normal all you want to. I am not gonna be normal.
Well,
Never
yeah.
have.
Of
Never
course,
been accused of that.
well, I've always said that, my only hope is that sanity is not in the majority.
Yeah, you have to be a little bit crazy to be creative, honestly. You kind of
Well,
teeter that fine line again.
there is that, between genius and madness, maybe.
Yes.
But I think that it is an important thing that we, don't allow artificial barriers to prevent us from connecting to really fun people.
Mhm. Yeah, and a lot of people, everybody has a story. On my podcast, The Journey is Real, I talk to real people about their passions and the journey
Mhm.
behind it that brought them through it. And every
Yeah,
person has a story. A lot of times people only see the end page, and it's like, no, 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 no,
exactly.
you missed all these chapters before it.
Yeah,
And it's like, this is what made me who I am.
yeah.
That question that really kind of irritates me is
Mhm.
if you could do it again, what would you change? And my
Mm.
answer to that is nothing
Mhm.
because it made me who I am today.
Yeah.
I would go
Well,
through all of that again.
being a Star Trek fan myself, and
Mhm,
including The Next Generation,
mhm,
there is a great episode in The Next Generation where Captain Picard, right, leader of
mhm,
the Starship Enterprise, has some regrets in his life,
mhm.
and he has this opportunity to go back and make some changes.
Yep, with Q. Mhm,
And he is a completely different person. He is not the leader of the Enterprise.
exactly.
He is
It's
not the person that he wanted to be.
funny that you mentioned Star Trek, because I'm actually a cosplayer, and
Okay.
I'm part of the Star Trek Pathfinder group. My husband is also. I'm
Okay.
CJ Peterson, Lieutenant Commander, Chief of Security, and he's Dr. Dallas. And on
Nice.
Facebook, we do what are kind of they're called meme-isodes. Basically, they're live action storyboards. And our
Mhm.
captain, Paul Watson, takes these
Yeah.
pictures and creates an actual story along the way. So you can find those at ST Pathfinder on Facebook.
I
It's pretty
love
cool.
this. This
So
is
you need to
great
check
stuff.
that out.
Yep, yep, absolutely. I tell you, there's just a ton of gold, coming out as John Lee Dumas says, "We got value bombs coming up with CJ
Everywhere.
Peterson here on Amazon Live. And we're winding down. We get about 10 minutes left. And I do encourage you, click. We've got a number of her books, but Appointed Time is the one that has come out most recently. It is the first of a trilogy. April or October 1st, the next one, January, the final edition of that. You're going to be drawn into these stories. Click on it, click the pick inside and start reading. You're going to be drawn into this, into the story. So make it a gift to yourself, give it to friends. This is the perfect time of year to give something really wonderful. And again, as we're talking about this, people can relate to the story. And then it's got some twists. It's very, very close to reality.
Yes.
And but it is a great story, a great opportunity
and
to expand.
And the twists keep coming.
Yes.
Like I said, it goes nuclear in book 2, and then it goes even a step further
really
in book
excited.
3. So
yes.
I've kind of got that fine balance between OCD and ADD. And the ADD person allows me, well, OCD allows me to keep all the characters in line, but the ADD portion allows it to not be boring. If it's a boring chapter, I rip it out. I'm like, nope. So
that's very good. So we don't have a description of different types of clam chowder. Then we don't have a whole chapter dedicated to that.
Exactly.
Just making a quick Melville reference, but anyway.
There you go.
Well, CJ, what other things are you involved in that people should know about? Because I know you've got a lot of stuff going on.
I do.
And they should reach out to you. Definitely click on the book, click on her picture, go to the author page, follow CJ Peterson, so you'll be alerted to the new stuff that's coming out. But what are some other things that people need to know?
Well, if they want to find me online, I'm also at cjpetersonwrites.com. My handle across all social medias is at authoress_CJ, AUTHORESS_CJ. All handles across the board. The other thing I didn't tell you about yet is the holiday anthology. Each year, Texas Sisters Press does a holiday anthology. That anthology has everything from writers who have not published anything yet, so there are new ones as well as very well established ones. So it gives you an eclectic mix. Like last year we had kaiju, we had a conversation with St. Peter, Santa versus Satan. This year we have a zombie Christmas. We have puppies, dogs. There's a superhero one, there's police one with speed dating, and how that goes interesting. So
okay, that just sounds like quite a combination.
Yeah, we try to collect stories that are unique. And like I said, there's a couple that will just have you laughing your head off. And that's coming out on November 4th. There's going to be this huge book launch party that's going to be live. There's lots of things that you can win. There's also a huge grand prize that, trust me, there's something for every member of the family in it. And each author's giving away something. And so there's tons of giveaways. There's tons of prizes. There's tons of things to learn and have fun. Even last year, we sung Christmas carols. So imagine 12 different authors singing kind of slightly off key. It gets fun.
I love it. I love it. So, CJ, I hope that we have an opportunity to do a live. Maybe we can do it here on Amazon.
Oh, sure.
And
and I have lots of books.
Anthology. You know, with when the new edition, the second in the trilogy, comes out, following Appointed Time, we can maybe do that. But I would love to bring in your authors, and we can fit. I think we can fit 10 people on the screen here.
Oh, that could be fun.
So we could have a good time. We can even cycle through. So everyone, make sure follow me here on Amazon Live, so you'll get notified when we go live, and you can look ahead and see who I have scheduled for these author interviews. We got some great stuff coming up, and obviously here with CJ, and the books coming up, the anthology, and I just imagine that 2022 is also going to be a very busy year for you guys there at the press.
I hope so. The other things we mentioned, I haven't mentioned, but we've talked about before, is I am a co-host of a podcast called The Con Hour. So like I said, I'm a geek at heart. And Greg
Yeah.
Calso is the host, and Amy Ravichandran and El Ariachi are co-hosts with me, and we just have a good old-fashioned time.
So tell us what you talk about with
Everything Comic-Con related. We've had actors, voice
okay.
actors, we've had musicians, we've had cosplayers, we've had Comic-Con coordinators. So basically
Mhm.
everything and anything goes when they're on. I mean,
Yeah.
conversations have run the gamut. It's been interesting.
And they're
And
coming back. In-person cons
mhm,
are coming back.
yep, we've got 2
Comic-Con
left
is
this year.
generally San Diego, right?
No, they're all over.
Is it all over? Okay.
All over.
I guess I
Like, I
have
have
been
2 more I have
sheltered.
2 more this year. I have Tyler Comic-Con and Beaumont Comic-Con. They're not
Okay.
as big as San Diego, which means that you can get to know people a little bit better.
You
So
know,
they're
I
actually that
I
way.
I like the smaller cons
Mhm,
personally, where you can get to know people because, in fact, I was just I was going to say last month, but it was in July. I was in Nashville at the
mhm.
National Association of Music Merchants, Summer NAM, as they call it. And a lot of the attendees were calling it NAM Light because with COVID, there was less people
Ah,
there.
mhm,
But, the way I looked at it is I said, I couldn't have had more conversations if you doubled the size.
exactly.
There's only so, and so I got to know people really well. I just really enjoyed that smaller venue.
Mhm.
So definitely, where can people find your podcast? What's the best way to
Well,
find
like I
you
said,
guys?
there's a couple going on. So the Con Hour, basically just
Mhm.
look up the Con Hour, theconhour.com. We're on uh, YouTube under the Con Hour. We're on Twitch. We're on
Of course,
Discord.
you're on
We're
Twitch.
everywhere. And then we're on the RSS feeds go to Amazon, iHeartRadio,
Mhm.
Spotify. They're all over the place. Um,
Fabulous.
my podcast, which is The Journey is Real, which I
Mhm.
mentioned earlier, where I talk to people about their passions. Just go to my website and all the landing pages are listed. It's easier to find it that way. And then
Fabulous.
I'll be starting a new one with my friend Michael Scott Clifton called Book World, The Great Escape. And we'll be talking pretty much everything books and writing and authors, reviews, that sort of stuff.
Well, that's
So
fabulous.
lots of
So
stuff going on.
lots of things going
Oh,
on. Yeah,
and I'm a
you're
farmer.
and you're a farmer.
I'm a
Yes.
farmer, so I blog. My blog is called The Journey to Fruitfulness, where we take our 5-acre farm from ground zero to fully functioning, self-sustaining, and I share our joys, our successes, our mistakes, and our epic failures. And I take life lessons and apply them to spiritual walk.
Yeah, I love this because so many people uh, have just realized over this last year and a half that it is a little more helpful if you can be self-sustainable,
Yes.
at least to some level.
Yes.
Yeah.
But all of
So
this stuff
definitely,
can be found on my website, which is cjpetersonwrites.com.
cjpetersonwrites.com.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for joining me,
Thank
CJ.
you
This
for
has been a
having me.
fabulous conversation. I know that we'll do some more of this because it's
Yes.
just it's a great opportunity to let people see the author behind the story and to get a little bit more detail there. And
Awesome.
so, thank you for taking the time. And so I'll send you into the green room in a moment here. But again, thank you. We have been talking with, having a great conversation with CJ Peterson. Her book, Appointed Time, is available. It's in the carousel. Click on it, add it to your cart. You can click and start reading it, but you're going to get involved. You're going to want to have it right away.
Mhm.
And
And
because
make sure you have the next one handy as soon as it comes out.
and follow her author page so you get notified with all this new stuff coming out.
Mhm.
CJ, thank you so much. I'm going to send you out for just a moment.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, this has been just a fabulous time talking with CJ Peterson. Thank you for watching either live or in the replay. Make sure you click on the book in the carousel. There's a number of books that she has. Click on CJ's photograph, go to her author page, and follow her so you will know more of what's coming out. But with that, we're going to shut down this Amazon Live broadcast. I am D. Scott. Have a fabulous day.